the community to respond to Talia's great ideas and great unpacking of the narrative. So put on your thinking kipot, and Talia, you will repeat some of your great questions.
Well, why did Yael kill Sisera? And how do we view Yael? Is she a villain or a hero?
Great. So how do we view Yael? Is she a villain or a hero? And why did Yael kill Sisera? Start there. There.
I think that she is a hero because if she gets mentioned in the House Torah, and to me, if you're mentioned in Torah, you're probably mentioned for something good, even if you made a bad action. So I'd rather view her as a hero. I don't necessarily know if she is, but I think that if she's in the House Torah, she should be. So.
I agree. Other thoughts?
Well, I think that Sisera probably was the type of a leader that, like Saddam Hussein, that as long as he will be alive, people will be afraid that he'll come back and do some more terrible things. So maybe his death was end of some part in the life, and Yael knew that.
I think that actually Yael was kind of villain. Someone who read the encounter, she knows that he is running for his life. He's not going there to endanger her. And part of the... Oh, if you haven't heard, I was saying, it's obvious from the reading that he was running for his life. And part of the tradition of the people in those days is that when you get someone into your tent, you protect them. So there was kind of a breaking of a very important covenant. For me, unfortunately, she is the one who goes with the winners. And sometimes breaking a covenant when the loser. So that's my personal take.
You can do Talia. You can respond at any moment.
Yes, a lot of people talk about peace and just have the courage to, be peaceful and stuff like that. But you also have to have the courage to fight. And you have to, like the soldier, you think about the soldiers in Israel, they don't want to kill people. But sometimes they have to save the country. So you have to remember that people, when we kill people, it's absolutely we want to. But we have to for whatever reason in it, and self-defense, whatever it is. So if you look at the soldiers and stuff like that, police officers, they don't kill because they want to. They kill because they have to for some whatever reason it is. So, in my opinion, she's a hero, and she was a warrior, and she had to kill just for whatever reason, the bad person, like Saddam Hussein or Iraq, something was bad, and that happened. So, that's my opinion.
I have a feeling that there was about 4 or 5 or 6 rabbis in the hall. I wonder if any one of them volunteered to give us a midrash.
Any in particular? Or?
Good question.
Anyone up for it?
I'm not the rabbi with the mic.
I think she's a warrior. You know, I think Eric really touched on something deep, that if she was a man, quite honestly, we wouldn't necessarily even have this question. She was a fighter. That's my midrash.
I do have a midrash to share, and it's actually Sisera's mother, who appears in this Haftarah. Near the end of, yeah, I know, Judy's sort of feeling the knife in her chest. Sisera's mother appears in this Haftarah, and Deborah is singing about her, picturing Sisera at the window waiting for her son to come back from battle and wondering why he's so late. And there's actually a midrash, Tuli. There's a midrash that one of the things that the sound of the shofar is meant to remind us of is the cries of Sisera's mother, waiting for him to come home.
Just connecting the Torah portion to the Haftarah, in the Shir HaHayam, the Song of the Sea, one of the first lines is that God is a God of war, which is something that I always struggle with reading that, but clearly God is presented as the hero. God is the reason that this whole book was written, and Devorah is also engaging in part of an act of war. And I think that looking at it today in the modern world is something that we should struggle with, that we, like this question, just asking this question is important, this debate is important. And I don't think that coming to a conclusion is necessarily I don't think we're going to find the right answer, but I think that it's important for us to struggle with this question.
I just want to highlight one thing that Talia wrote about in her Devar, the moment at which the Egyptians were king. Talia, can you just read us those couple of lines again? Slowly. Read right here.
Moses holds out his hand again. The sea comes crashing back on the Egyptians. When the Israelites see the dead Egyptians, they sing.
And one of Talia's questions in there was, highlighting the complexity of God's thoughts at that moment. Yes, God is this Ish Milchama, this God of war, but it's complicated. The repercussions of that and God's thoughts. God, has thoughts in the way that we understand thoughts.
I just had a quick thing to add. Rabbi Solomon just said that if Yael had been a man, we might not be questioning this. And in fact, though, we do at times, because when Pinchas did something like this and drove a spear through a couple of Midianites, we do question. And I think the other thing is, it's going through my head, is this weekend when we celebrate the life of someone who really tried to take the road of passive resistance and peace rather than violence. Obviously, that's the choice that we try to make. But there are times, and perhaps in Yael's mind and Pinchas's mind, when it was necessary, or they felt so strong in their belief that they were worried that what was going on would not bode well for their people. And God actually, we see that God rewards Pinchas for his act, but in a limited way. He's sort of given a position, but one that will contain him. So I guess the point is that we strive for peace, and the reality is it's complicated.
Well, I think the question, though a good one, doesn't really take into account that this was all part of God's plan, and that Deborah had prophesied that that God was going to deliver Sisera, but for the fact that Sisera fled, he would have been wiped out on the mount anyway. And so the fact that he was then ended up at the tent of Yael, she may have just been part of the design. And who knows how things work when
God makes it a plan, we're all part of it in some way.
Right, and it was actually Devorah who said that Sisera would be delivered into the hands of a woman.
Not to take it out of the hands of a woman, but I am worried by this model. I am very worried. Because in war, other times, we want to have civility, even in war. And when someone gives up, we don't kill them. That we treat people with respect and so forth, even when we are the ones who are in control. And so I actually agree with the comment that was made earlier. The Arab people and other traditions have said once in someone's tent, there's a place of safety. When someone is running, you can catch them and so forth. But to commit murder in this type of sensitive situation is a very dangerous precedent. And we were very curious and very careful about it, just not making them into a major model. And so this one I would not make that into a major model as well.
Would you like to offer any closing thoughts?
How did she close her?